Welcome, everyone. So glad to have you here. This is Majesty Sussex Report. I'm Antonio, and once again, it's my utmost honor and privilege that you've decided to spend some of your time here with us. Wasn't that music a little bit, it made me feel almost like being in the Sahara Desert and watching like Lawrence of is it Lawrence of the Arabian or who did the movie? Laurence Olivier, and the movie was called Lawrence of Arabia. I'm so sorry. These things come into my head, and I just say it without thinking it through. I really do. I've got this bank of memory that just I think it just likes playing tricks on me. It's just it just pokes me ever so often. It will send half information to me. Anyways, hope you're all doing great. It's been an interesting week thus far. I am fascinated with what I've been, reading and watching sort of happening in the UK, and this whole thing about, who said what and the racism this and all of that, and how they have tackled it, which I find very telling, I would say. I think Prince Harry is the only one in that family who has the courage that when he has done anything and it's been brought to his attention that it's either wrong or inappropriate or could be offensive, he quickly tries to learn. He quickly tries and he apologizes and then tries to correct what he's actually done or said. Everyone else in that family just seems to deflect, or they just go and parade out them walking or shaking hands with a bunch of people of color, right? And I just don't get it, man. I know I wouldn't be caught there. Why? But it is what it is. One of the things that I found interesting, Omid wrote an op-ed, and I actually read it. It's pretty good, and I'm going to give you folks the summary of it, because since we are still in all things Omid and all things Endgame, today we're doing chapter 2. So I'll tell you what it's all about. The op-ed that Omid wrote, and the title of it was Endgame Backlash Shows How Unwilling We Are to Confront Race Issues. And it was published on December 8th. So some of the main points, context of Endgame release. So he gives context of it. So Scobie discusses the challenges he faced in releasing his book Endgame, which delves into controversial topics surrounding the royal family, particularly regarding race and the institution's imperial past. He highlights the misinformation spread by tabloids, including the use of false quotes and misinterpreted translations, particularly in the Dutch edition of his book. While the book touches on sensitive subjects like potential unconscious bias in the royal family, Scobie clarifies that he intentionally did not, I repeat, did not reveal names involved in conversations about the Sussexes' child skin color due to legal reasons. He goes on to say, he describes his rigorous legal vetting process with British barristers and mentions the discrepancy in the Dutch version of the book, which he attributes to a translation error or early uncleared text. Upon his return to London, Scobie faced intense media scrutiny, threats, and harassment. He criticizes the aggressive resistance to discussing the monarchy critically. The author notes a decline in support for the monarchy, questioning whether criticism of this public institution is being unfairly labeled as an attack. He goes on where he talks about personal experience and broader implications. Scobie reflects on his experiences covering the royal family, especially post Meghan Markle entry in 2016. He criticizes the royal institution's failure to address its historic link to slavery and protect its family member of color. He sort of concludes saying that Scobie argues that the royal family's reluctance to address these issues is a failure to modernize and reflect the diversity of Britain. Here's my take or my 2 cents or whatever, for whatever it's worth. Omid Scobie's op-ed is a candid reflection on the struggles of confronting entrenched systematic issues within an institution as revered and traditional as the British monarchy. His op-ed, Endgame Backlash, shows how unwilling we are to confront race issues, sheds light not just on the content of his book, but also on the broader societal reluctance to engage with uncomfortable truth, particularly regarding race and historical injustices, right? Scobie's experiences from the misrepresentation of his work to the personal backlash he faced underscores the difficulties that arise when challenging long-standing narratives. His article highlights a critical dilemma: the balance between respecting traditions and heritage and the pressing need to address and rectify historical wrongs. The backlash he describes is indicative of a society grappling with its colonial past and its present-day implications, especially concerning race and diversity. Furthermore, Scobie's account of the rigorous process of legal vetting juxtaposed with the misinformation and aggressive media response he received brings into sharp focus the challenges faced by journalists and authors who dare to tread on sensitive topics. It also points to a larger issue of how public discourse is shaped and often skewed by media portrayals, especially when it involves institutions like the monarchy, that obviously have long been shielded from critical scrutiny. His op-ed is not just a defense of his work, but a call to action for a more open, honest, and inclusive discourse about the role of the monarchy in a modern, multicultural Britain. It's a reminder that progress often requires uncomfortable conversations and that turning a blind eye to issues, especially those as significant as race and historical injustices, only portrays the status quo. In this context, Scobie's work and his subsequent reflections in this article contribute to a necessary and ongoing conversation about history, about race, and the future of national institutions. You know, here in Canada, the way how Indigenous people were treated, it's a long overdue conversation. It's a long overdue. I've been since I've been on this land, which is not mine. I am Canadian, but this land is not mine. It's not doesn't belong to any of us. It belongs to the Indigenous people. And the narrative that is told about the Indigenous, and it's not until, I would say, recent, or even when you question what you're reading in textbooks or stuff, and you actually go and you do further research, you realize, hey, this story is not being told the way it should be told. The horrors that happened on this land to its Indigenous people. What was it? Two years ago, all these mass graves in schools, because they would take the Indigenous child from their home, from their parents, to beat their culture out of them, to beat their language out of them. We have to have these conversations. It's like people who are too fragile. No, you're not fragile to have the conversation. You just don't want to have the conversation, because having the conversation means that you need to recognize that you've got privilege. And you have benefited from that privilege. The rest of us want to have the conversation. But no, you are banning books in Florida, burning books, and saying that your poor baby is too young to learn about these things. Was my mother too young when she was spat on? People of color and minorities have been going through and suffering. Let's not even get into the lynching and all that stuff that has happened in the South. Oh, but we must not talk about, because my poor fragile child. No. It's you. You're the problem, not the child. Children learn. Children understand. Children are more open. Not you and your close-mindedness. Come on. And for them to start attacking, it's so fascinating that they attack instead of actually reading the book and recognizing the truth within the book and saying we should have a national conversation. Because if the top echelon of our society, our monarch, is a racist, allegedly, or has said racist things, and we know the history of the family, like nothing here is new, let's have a conversation about it. Britain is becoming more and more multicultural all the time. All right, that's it. Let's get it on, and let's go directly to chapter 2. Chapter 2. Shaky ground, the Queen is dead, the monarchy faces trouble. The chapter begins with a reflection on the role of mystery and reverence in the perception of royalty, citing quotes that suggest the significance of keeping a certain mystique around monarchy. It then contrasts King Charles III's approach with that of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II. Right after his ascension, Charles displayed a more affable and in-touch demeanor, engaging directly with the public outside Buckingham Palace, a stark contrast to the Queen's more reserved public interactions. The chapter posits that Charles had long prepared for his reign, advocating for a more modern, agile, and cost-effective monarchy. His vision, cultivated over his years as the Prince of Wales, included passionate activism and progressive thinking. The chapter suggests that Charles' approach may be influenced by the late Princess Diana, his own experiences within the rigid royal institution, or his passion for environmental and interfaith initiatives. On September 9th, 2022, Charles' first interaction with the public as king was seen as an attempt to present a leaner, more tolerant, and personable monarchy. However, the narrative hints that maintaining this image might be challenging. The chapter then shifts to Queen Consort Camilla's event on November 29th against violence towards women and girls, showcasing her advocacy and the monarchy's potential to address significant issues. However, the next day, a social media post by an attendee, Cozy Filoni, sparked controversy, highlighting the challenges the monarchy faces in adapting and maintaining its image. The fascinating thing for me now, right, is and I come back to this, and I know you folks might be thinking, stop beating this thing over the head, right? But as I read the chapter, as I highlighted certain things that I wanted to bring forth into the summary, I just can't help it to think that it doesn't matter what the good intentions are. What really matters is, what do you do then? What are the actions that you will take? And just knowing the actions that were taken and the ones that are still not being taken, it's sort of mind-baffling to me. When his son, his younger son, goes and tries to explain to him, because maybe he decides not to read the papers or watch television or something, but his son then relates to him. These are the things that are being said about my wife. These are the things that are being said about her and myself. These are the things in which my children are being dragged into this nonsense. As a father, as a grandfather, as the new monarch who wants to, quote unquote, right, be more progressive, the first thing I would have done, or I should say really, the first thing he should have done, was bring the family together, be the mediator. Can you imagine for a minute how much he would be celebrated and seen as not Charles III, the bridge between his mother and his eldest son, but there's a possibility that he could have been seen as the mediator, the one who rose to the occasion for his family. Can you imagine if he went to California or had Meghan and Harry and the grandkids over? Don't leak it to the press. Don't say anything. Just have them over. Sit down, have a conversation, apologize for the things that
you should be apologizing about. And then speak with your other son and say, this is going to stop. It's stopping right now here. And have them over and sit down and talk it out. And if you want to create again that sort of bubble and say, listen, we are the monarchy. And William, I know that you're ready right now. You want me off the throne, but give me a couple more years. So let me establish and stabilize this monarchy. And the way we're going to do that is by doing these things. Here is the plan. Can you imagine? But that sounds a little bit too logic, doesn't it? So instead, it's just resentment and egos and, like, come on. After all, it's a business. That's not a good way to run a business. The incident at a Buckingham Palace event hosted by Queen Consort Camilla against violence towards women and girls, Cozy Filani, CEO of Sister Space, a charity for women and girls of African and Caribbean heritage, affected by domestic and sexual abuse, shared on Twitter, now known as the X, that she had a negative experience at the event. She detailed an interaction with Lady SH, which we end up finding out that it's Lady Susan Hussey, where Hussey inappropriately touched her dreadlocks and persistently questioned her about her heritage. Lady Susan Hussey, a close friend of the royal family and grandmother to Prince William, reportedly asked Filoni several times about her background, insisting on knowing where she was really from, even after Filoni affirmed she was British. The line of questioning was perceived as racially insensitive and caused significant controversy, overshadowing the event's purpose. The chapter discusses the royal family's ongoing struggles with racism and outdated thinking highlighted by Harry and Meghan's revelation in the Oprah interview. The incident with Hussey is seen as a setback for the monarchy efforts to modernize and become more inclusive. Buckingham Palace's response to the incident is critiqued as slow and insufficient. The chapter questions the wisdom of placing Hussey, an octogenarian and confidant of the late Queen, in a public-facing role at such a diverse event. It highlights the need for the royal family to adapt to contemporary standards and expectations, moving away from traditional roles like ladies-in-waiting to avoid similar controversies. The incident illustrates the challenges the monarchy faces in its attempt to present a more tolerant and forward-looking image, suggesting that deeper changes are necessary for true modernization. And here's the thing for me. It's not about placing her at the event or for her to participate in the event. What it highlights for me is that they have not caught up with the times. So if you're going to have ladies in waiting or have senior, older people be part of these events, maybe perhaps you should ask them what their views are on certain issues, number one, and number two, take them through some kind of training, right? I mean, I have done volunteer work at many organizations, and before we go out to the public, depending on what our role is as volunteers, we are trained. We're trained in what the organization believes in. We are trained in um, knowing how to answer certain questions, how to approach people, right? So we're trained. And anything that we're not sure about, we get one of the managers or supervisors to come over and answer whatever question the person may have regarding the charity or the organization that we are volunteering for or representing. And this whole thing that, the touching of the hair, I don't understand people's fascination with touching other people's hair. Listen, unless you are in bed with me, you're not touching my hair. Number one. Number two, even if we're just outside, don't touch my hair. I don't know you, don't touch my hair. Space, but boundaries, right? I don't get it. I don't understand. And I don't care people who say, well, it's fascinating because my hair is not like that. One of my friends, her son, he's mixed, and he has this wonderful curly, beautiful hair. And just when he started school, and even now, like people will come up and go, "Oh, you have such great hair," and grab his hair. I'm like, who has given you the authorization? Can you just imagine for a minute? And I'm not trying to make this about one thing or another, but have you ever seen or heard? I'm sure it has happened. Some person of color or a minority person going up to a non-colored, non-minority person and grabbing their hair and going, "Oh my gosh, your hair is so blonde. Let me put my hands through it." Has it happened? I'm sure it has. Somewhere, it must have happened at some point. But we haven't heard of it. Especially a stranger. It is just fascinating to me why anyone would do that. And the questioning of your identity, of your nationality, of you belonging, it's absolutely a way to other you, right? You don't belong here. So where are you from? Oh, I was born here. No, but where are you really from? And I know that question is, some people will say, well, no, I was just interested to know. I was curious. Oh, were you? Because then it becomes, well, where's your parents from? They were born here. Oh, where is your grandparents from? Nigeria? Oh, so you're Nigerian. No, I'm not. Right? You see, because the person is not Nigerian. I watched a play a little while ago, and it was one of the main characters. He is white, sort of dirty blonde hair, and he was born and raised in Jamaica of Canadian parents. But his culture, he's Jamaican. So the play sort of relates his experience being this white, blue-eye, green-eye, blonde hair kid growing up in a place where he is the minority. And even though he is accepted as Jamaican and he is Jamaican, right? There's some teasing and taunting him, white boy this and white boy that. So in sort of search for his identity, because in Jamaica they kind of often say to him, you're so privileged, you're white and this and that. And he's like, well, I'm Jamaican. I don't know what you're talking about. So he moves to Canada, and in coming to Canada, he starts to realize that there is some kind of privilege that exists because he looks the way he looks. But when he opens his mouth and starts to speak, people are taken aback. Oh, where's that accent from? Why do you speak like that? And when he sort of says, well, I'm from Jamaica, it takes people, like their brain just exploded. And it takes a little bit of a while to adjust, like, how could this be? Because it doesn't fall into the narrative that we have either been sold or that we tell ourselves, right? So identity and where you're from and nationality and belonging, it is a construct, but it is a construct that is created for us to be able to other someone else, to question really whether you belong or not belong. I used to be part of a student body that was that would represent the high school, and I was part of the committee that would welcome, whether it was dignitaries or a visiting student or parent, so or teachers from another school. So I was called to the main office or the headmaster's office or principal, and was told, oh, there is a visiting teacher. Would you be so kind and give them a tour of the school? And I said, yeah, of course. So met the teacher, gave her my name and welcomed her to our school, and I started to give the tour. I would say about less than 5 to 6 minutes into giving the tour, she stopped and kind of looked at me in a sort of puzzled face. And she said, your accent, how hard have you had to work on it so you don't sound Tamil? And I said, what? She said, you don't sound Tamil at all. And I kind of, like, I don't sound Tamil. I said, well, I'm not Tamil. And she says, you're not? I said, no, I'm not. She said, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. She says, you're Sri Lankan. I know you folks had some kind of, this disagreement and land issues and stuff, right? So you're very touchy about, your identity. I'm so sorry. I did not mean, but you guys do look alike, right? You're from the same island, but I'm sorry. So you are Sri Lankan, but that is still really great, Your accent is not very Sri Lankan. Now I had the puzzled look because this is an educator. So I said, perhaps because I am not Sri Lankan. At this point, she sort of gave me that sort of, what? This sort of look like, how dare you? And I said, yeah, I'm not Tamil, I'm not Sri Lankan, I'm not from Sri Lanka. And she goes, oh, well, all right then. So I said, should we carry on? And 2 minutes later, she goes, I got it. How silly of me. You are from India. And she goes, okay, I don't want to offend you or anything. So if you're from a certain region of India, do tell me, and what's the appropriate name or I should be referring to you as. And at this point I thought, woman, can you just freaking drop it? So I said, well, You're not offending me. I don't feel offended. I am curious though that you're trying to locate where I'm from. I said, I'm not from India. I was not born there. I said, but I do have heritage that comes from India. Where in India, I do not know. But I do have heritage that comes from India. And she goes, oh, I knew it. I just knew it. I knew it. But your accent is still really peculiar. You know, you have a very, and at this point, I said, would it not be easier if you just asked me where I'm from or what my heritage is rather than trying to guess? And she gave me a look as if I had just told her about how she was produced or told her something about her mama. The woman looked at me as if she was still able to grab a cane or a stick and hit me with it, she would have. And she said, well, I was just trying to be friendly. And I said, it's okay. I said, I'm sorry if I've offended you or anything. And again, I'm the one apologizing, right? I'm the one saying sorry. She didn't. I said, it's just that I know you're trying to guess, and nothing against the places that you are guessing that you think I'm from. I said, but it's a little bit offensive if you, like, it would be easier if you just asked me and me tell you where. And she just went, fine then. Where are you from? So I told her, and then I explained also that I have heritage and roots that come from different parts of the world, and that I lived in different countries, and I went to a certain type of school, so I learned English a certain way. And sometimes if I hang out too much with people from a certain part of the world, I tend to pick up their accent. Is not something I do consciously. It just kind of happens. And then I have to be very careful and mindful of the way I'm speaking because my brain works that way. I'm sorry. That's just the way my brain works. And she's like, okay, then we can carry on. So it fascinates me that you can just ask a question, right? So rather than guessing, ask the question if you may. And once the person has provided you with an answer, that's the answer they want you to have about them, then drop it. I had someone said to me, I was at a bar with a couple of my friends, and I was buying drinks, and the bartender kept insisting that I was from South Africa. And the thing that I love, though, I must admit, is that being so mixed, sometimes the way you look could belong to anywhere. But once the person has corrected you and say, oh, I'm not from that region, or I'm not from there, I'm from X, Y, or Z, why is it not accepted? Why can't you just drop it? And I kept saying, no, I'm not from South Africa. Oh, yes, you are. Okay, if you say so. So, anyone listening to this, it's okay to ask the question, where are you from? If the person gives you an answer, accept it and drop it. Now, if the person wants to elaborate and say, well, I was born here, my dad is from this area and my mom is from that area, or I was adopted, or whatever. That's if they want to disclose and share that with you. If not, drop it. Okay? The challenges of modernizing, why am I having difficulties with that word? Modernizing, the challenges of modernizing the British monarchy, especially following Queen Elizabeth II passing, it highlights the difficulties King Charles III faces in reconciling his vision for a modern monarchy with the institutions entrenched in traditions. The narrative critiques the monarchy's slow pace of change, exemplified by the decision to maintain Queen Consort Camilla's ladies-in-waiting in a slightly modified role, symbolizing adherence to archaic traditions despite a facade of modernization. The monarchy is depicted as being a step away from scandal, with King Charles' attempts to change being cautious to avoid unraveling the monarchy's fabric. The incident with Lady Susan Hussey is used to illustrate this disconnect between Charles' vision and the current reality of the monarchy. The chapter implies that Charles' prolonged exposure to privilege may not have adequately prepared him for the challenges of kingship. It suggests that his reign will be scrutinized more intensely than his mother's, given her long service and beloved status. Prince William's response to the Hussey incident is highlighted as an example of decisive action. Unlike the palace's traditional approach, William's swift condemnation of the racist incident and his public statement demonstrates his willingness to act independently. This contrasts with the palace's handling of Prince Andrew's scandal, where actions were reportedly taken only after William's urging, despite public claims of a unified approach by Charles and William. I mean, it underscores the complexities and tensions within the royal family as they navigate the transition to a more modern monarchy. It suggests that both Charles and William are aware of the need for change, but face significant challenges in balancing tradition with modern expectations. Now, I mean, we know, and I hope we do, that the monarchy is not only a family business, but it's an institution that is a business. Businesses that don't have policies to address these issues do not survive. So, you mean to tell me all this time that has passed and you haven't thought of creating change? After all, look, I get it. You are like the CEO. So the king, the queen, they're like the CEO of the company, right? As the CEO, when CEOs come into a company, the first thing or one of the first things that they do, even before they accept the role, is they do a deep dive into the organization. And then they start to plan their legacy. Because that's what's important ultimately to a lot of these people. It's their legacy. You know, I worked with one CEO. Well, I didn't work directly with the CEO. I worked at a company where I was in meetings with the CEO. And the CEO said at one point, I want my legacy to be that this company had an impact in every community that we're in. I want us to be more mindful about sustainability. I want us to be more mindful about making sure that we are getting our supplies from local stores, from smaller stores, not the big box ones, because I want that to be my legacy. That I took this organization, this company, in that direction. Right? So that is the legacy, the good stuff that everyone is going to talk about. Not that there was a list of people that were going to be let go in the next couple of months. No. That is just part of business. But you start planning your legacy. And King Charles has had a long time. Look at what's happening in the world. Look what's happening in the UK, and make decisive decisions once you are there. But how could he, when he can't even really apologize and face, allegedly, the things he said, and the way in which his first black biracial daughter-in-law that we know of was treated, when he has some of the tabloid newspaper in his pocket, or they've got this symbiotic relationship, he could easily say, listen, back off. And he hasn't. Right? So that tells us a lot. The chapter discusses the evolving dynamics within the royal family, particularly between King Charles III and Prince William. The narrative emphasizes Prince William's desire to carve out his own image, distinct from the controversies surrounding other family members, including his father, brother, and uncle. It suggests that William sees his father's reign as transitional and is positioning himself for the future role as king. Really? Do better. Ugh. The relationship between Charles and William is portrayed as increasingly competitive, with William not affording Charles the same difference, I guess, Charles gave to Queen Elizabeth II. This dynamic is evident in their separate approaches to public engagements and communication. The chapter cites examples of William establishing his own identity, such as his prominent role during the Platinum Jubilee concert in 2022, and his scheduling of a high-profile interview coinciding with Prince Charles' first trooping of the Color Parade. Well, King Charles. The Hussey controversy timing is noted as particularly problematic for William and Kate, overshadowing their trip to the United States for the Earthshot Prize ceremony. The Earthshot Prize, initiated by William and Sir David Attenborough, is seen as a direct extension of William's environmental interest, distinct from Charles' long-standing advocacy in this same area. The chapter also covers the fallout from the Hussey's incident during the Wales' visit to Boston, including the muted responses from key figures like John Kerry and Caroline Kennedy, and the less than welcoming reception at the Celtics basketball game, which was a big mistake. They shouldn't have gone, really. Like, come on. This series of events underscores the challenges the monarchy faces in balancing tradition with the need for modernization. Gee, what is wrong? I am sure I can usually say that word. Oh my gosh, I really am having issues with it. Ay, ay, ay. And the impact of individual actions on the family collective image. The chapter continues to focus on the public perception and challenges faced by Prince William and Kate Middleton, particularly during their visit to Boston for the Earthshot Prize ceremony. It highlights the shift in public reception towards the couple, contrasting it with their more positive reception in New York in 2014. The Earthshot ceremony itself is described as underwhelming, with low viewership and overshadowed by the release of the Sussex Netflix docuseries trailer. I remember when that happened, and it was like, oh my goodness. And I was like, yes. The chapter also discusses the environmental paradox of the event. And I wrote that word. I was like, yeah, let me find a word for this. Paradox. Yes, it's paradoxical. Noting the irony in environmental award winners participating via Zoom and celebrities flying in on private jets. It points out Kate's environmentally conscious gesture of renting her gown, which is not a repeated practice at royal events. Now, listen, we can say this or that about Kate and whatever else. Some of us may not like her fashion, some of us may, some of us just kind of look and, we can see sometimes she's just imitating, our favorite person. But who under this sun, sky, on this earth suggested to her that that awful green thing that she wore, I mean, she looks okay in everything else, but it was the color of the carpet, all green. Like she looked like, what's that frog called? From the Muppets. Ay, what's this da 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 I don't remember. Oh well. Well, the one that Miss Piggy was in love with. You see, I remember Miss Piggy. Just Kermit the Frog. That's it. She looks like Kermit's sister. Like honestly, I don't mean to offend Kate, but well, let's carry on. The narrative then shifts to the broader image challenges faced by William and Kate. Initially perceived as a safe and relatable couple, their image or their public image is now experiencing more scrutiny. This increased scrutiny is tied to their rise in royal responsibilities and their efforts to differentiate themselves from controversies within the royal family. The chapter delves into the issues faced by the royal family before Queen Elizabeth II's death, including the fallout from Prince Andrew's scandal and the allegations made by Harry and Meghan. It critiques Charles' handling of various scandals and reflects on the increased pressure and scrutiny on William and Kate. Well deserved. Like, he's the future king, and she's the future concert queen or queen consort or queen or whatever. The discussion of William and Kate's Caribbean tour, oh gosh, in early 2022 for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee emphasizes its failure as a PR exercise. A failure, a disaster. The tour, intended to solidify the monarchy's presence in the Commonwealth, instead raised questions about the monarchy's future and faced protests and criticism, particularly concerning colonial legacy issues.
Omid paints a vivid picture of a British monarchy at a crucial crossroads. The chapter compellingly captures, I think, the nuances of a family and an institution grappling with the legacy of Queen Elizabeth II and the uncertainties of the future. King Charles III's ascension to the throne is marked by his desire to appear more accessible and connected, a stark contrast to his mother, more reserved and demure. However, Omid underlines the inherent challenges in modernizing a centuries-old institution steeped in tradition and resistant to change. The narrative expertly, I think, weaves through various controversies and public relations missteps, highlighting the monarchy's struggle to stay relevant and in many ways also sensitive to modern societal issues. I mean, the Lady Susan Hussey's scandal and the divergent responses from Charles and William illuminate the internal discord and the different path each royal is carving out in this new era. William's push for modernity and his attempts to distance himself from the archaic aspects of the institution reflects a monarchy in transition, striving to find its place in a rapidly evolving world. Meanwhile, Charles struggles to redefine the monarchy while respecting its traditions, poses its own set of challenges. And do we even believe that William is really going to be different? His actions indicate otherwise. Omid's portrayal of the British monarchy is one of an institution at a pivotal moment, seeking to balance its rich history and the demands of a contemporary society that is increasingly critical and less forgiving. The chapter underscores the delicate balance the royal family must strike between honoring their past and embracing a future that demands transparency, inclusivity, and a greater awareness of global issues. As the royal family navigates these turbulent waters, much of it created by them, their actions, decisions, and ability to adapt will not only define their legacy, but also determine the continued relevance of the monarchy in the eyes of the world. Oh, folks, well, that concludes chapter 2. Hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you make fun of me trying to say the word modernization or modernize. I usually can say it quite easily. I don't know why today I kind of struggled with it. But thank you for listening and watching, and hope you get something out of it, especially thinking about family and how we interact and the things we do, and very sort of interested also in the way we welcome or not or receive members or people that are joining the family. You know, I'm always excited to meet my brother has, no, I shouldn't. Okay, I'm not going to, because it might be my last podcast if I ever have to mention certain things. I am always so curious and happy to meet people that are now part of this, my extended family, right? You'll go spend some time with a family member, whether it's in the US or in the UK or South America, and you get to meet these new people. You know, your cousin married this person, or your aunt is, you know, has a new person in her life, and I'm always curious about it. I'm always curious about them and about the dynamics within the family. And I'm always curious as to why families react the way the royal family reacted when Meghan joined. Because my first instinct is to protect, to welcome, to, you know, you are part of us now. And to think that people choose to do the opposite, it's just, I was dating someone, and should I tell you, folks? I'll tell you. They took me home for the first time, and it was during the holiday season. And they had warned me that their grandmother did not really like people that were not white. And I'm saying this with a smile on my face. I don't know why, but I am. So I was prepared, and as we approached the house, I was warned ahead of time that the grandmother was at the house. So again, this is the first time I'm meeting the family. So I went and I said hello to everyone, and I saw her in the corner. You know, she did not move an inch. Like the rest of everyone else sort of got up and moved and came to greet me and said hello and it's so great to meet you. She did not move. And my head turned, I locked eyes with her, and I said, "You must be Grandma so-and-so." And I walked straight to her and just hugged her. The woman, I thought she might have been close to having a heart attack. I was just like, you know what? Baba booba this, right? I wanted to say another word, but I was like, I'm going to not be uncomfortable. I am not going to act weird. I'm not going to allow you to make me feel less than. No, I don't care. I'm going to put it back on you. So I walked over and I just hugged her and I said, "It was so great to meet you. So great to meet you. Such a pleasure." And I said, "You're way hotter than..." I mean, she was a good-looking granny. Ay. Why do we complicate things? Why? It's so hard sometimes to fathom. We're so territorial. We kind of defend or protect stupid stuff at the consequence of hurting others and ruining relationships. Gosh, why do we do that? Because it's not just the royal family that does it. And I mean, I'm sure you will hear, or some of you might have had that same experience, where, oh, his mother doesn't like me, oh, his father is such a jerk, oh, well, I don't speak to the family because of that, and that. And look, I've said this before, like my mother does not speak to some people from my dad's family. And I'll tell you, like, she has reasons, right? But that doesn't stop me. Right? That's their relationship. That's their thing. It's between her and whomever. So it's just weird. I think we miss out of some really amazing experiences and amazing people when we don't give people a chance. I had a friend in university, and she was telling, she's of Italian descent, and we were talking about again the season time, about Christmas, and she said, yeah, before when I was younger, we used to have, like, it was so big and all these family members, and it was so great. She goes, but we don't do that anymore. It's just, my parents and this other family member. And I was like, oh, how come? What happened? Oh, well, this happened, so we don't talk to them anymore. And then that happened, so we don't talk to them anymore. And then this other, they didn't come and they didn't defend us, so we don't talk to them anymore. And then these people, well, we don't talk to them either because, like, I saw the cousin speaking to the aunt that we don't speak to anymore. And I just thought for a second, I'm like, what? Why? 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 Was it that important? And even if it was, did time not heal any wounds? Did time not allow for grace and forgiveness or any of that? There's certain things that are unforgivable. And I've said that, in my own morals and values. There's certain things that I'm like, that's unforgivable. But it's not just of me to forgive. It's of God. It's forgiveness is divine. And it's not even about forgiving the person that has said something. And it's not forgetting it either. Like, I don't forget things. I really don't. But what are you missing out of? And maybe you're not missing out of anything. And again, if the people or the person is toxic, like, by all means, walk away from that. You don't need that in your life. You really don't. But I think of relationships that we don't have, like relationships between cousins, because the two mothers don't speak, or the mother and the uncle don't speak because it's something that happened. And to be quite honest, sometimes you ask them and you go, what exactly happened? And they don't even remember what happened. All they know, we don't talk to them. And look, I get it. If someone reached out, or you reached out, and they were still in that space, like, don't cause yourself more trouble or fatigue or any of that. Like, you made the attempt, they weren't welcoming, and you move on. But when families have had these ugly situations kind of, I don't know, infiltrate into a second generation and then another generation, and it's just weird. So weird and just so petty and odd to me. Well, I think it's time for me to rest my mouth and stop speaking. So, I am feeling quite taken aback a little bit, and don't worry, nothing bad, nothing bad. I think I'm about to cry or something. So I usually when I end the podcast and I put the music on, I usually will still have water or whatever next to me. I'll drink that water and then start doing the rest. Or get up and go get water from where I am. So I had to get up to go get water. And as I was heading back, I looked at my phone, I saw an email. I clicked on the email and it's from YouTube. And it said basically, congratulations, you've reached the requirements. So you can have like memberships now and super stickers and whatever else. And I'm like, what? Really? Oh gosh, folks. There is so much I would like to say, but I know how this crazy online thing works, and there's lots of good that comes out from it, but also there's always one, right? So I'll restrain myself from saying so many personal things I would like to say, but with each milestone that we have achieved on this little channel that could oh man, you've really helped me done something, and to continue to do something that I didn't think I would have the courage to do. And at the very beginning when I said, being in the hospital and seeing your life almost like a picture just flash in front of you, and then you think about all the things you wanted to do and didn't do them. And for me, doing this wasn't about this particular moment of, I guess, moving forward, I'm monetized, but it was about having a voice, wanting to say something. I have been told many a times in my life, to stay quiet and to shut up. And oh boy, this has been a real a really interesting journey because I was looking for. It's so funny how the universe works. It's really so funny. And God, man, God has his ways. And I always try to do what is right. It hasn't always worked out in my favor because I tend to trust people too much. But often I've danced around, not being me. I've told myself many a times, well, stop being so nice, or people keep taking advantage of you, or stop doing this, or stop doing that, or don't, when you start to stammer or something, people make fun of you, and when you live an existence where you're constantly, your brain is in overdrive, constantly telling you the 20,000 scenarios of why you shouldn't something. And I said the other day in the meditation we were doing, I said, stop letting your brain give you the 20,000 or whatever reasons why things will go wrong or why you shouldn't do it. And just concentrate on the one that tells you it might just happen. So do it. I as a multiracial person, my journey also has been very interesting thus far, knock on wood, because that's why I have all these stories, because I've been having these stories since I was a kid. I was a very sickly kid. I was often in the hospital, and you go through these journeys because you're bullied and people make fun of you and all this stuff that happens, and you go on your journey and you try to just continue to do good. I used to think that I used to think that if anything bad happened to me, when it would happen to me, I would usually say, well, I'm being strong for someone else somewhere, that God thinks I can handle it. So, because he's helping someone else somewhere. And it's a weird thing for a little child to have, or a weird kind of justification, I think, of in some sense dealing with, trauma or bullies and stuff like that. But it honestly was the way I used to think, and in a weird way, it also helped me survive, right? And I never take things for granted. I'm always in awe of existing, even, because all things told, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't. But I am. And I'm so happy I am. I remember when Meghan and Prince Harry made their announcement, and God, I was so silly, stupid, happy. I was like, yay! Mixed race girl! And I was like, yeah, it had to be Harry. Who else was it going to be? Oh man, sorry. Now I'm talking too much. I just want to say thank you. Really, thank you. Really? Okay, I'm going to stop because thank you.
You were by my side. I woke up alone. I should have known, because I'm always on my own. I just want you here every minute, dear. When I'm without you, don't know what to do. Every time you say goodbye, oh, please don't say goodbye. I will wait for you, however long you want me to. Just please don't say goodbye. Every time you say goodbye, goodbye. Every time you say every time you say goodbye, every time you say